All right, let's just dive right in, shall we? For way too long, the menstrual cycle has been wrapped up in all this mystery and, frankly, a lot of misinformation. So today, we are going to cut through all of that noise. In this explainer, we're swapping out those old wives' tales for some hard scientific facts so we can finally understand what's really going on. And this quote, wow, it really sets the stage, doesn't it? Historically, the whole conversation around periods has been steeped in stigma. But you know what? That perspective is just outdated and, let's be honest, totally unscientific. So we're here to correct the record and look at this cycle for what it actually is, a sign of health and a seriously sophisticated biological process. So here's our game plan. We're going to start by just reframing how we think about the cycle itself. Then we'll dive into some of the biggest myths, one by one. We're talking about everything from what's really in period blood to whether our cycles actually sync up. We'll even look at exercise, PMS, and wrap up by exploring why your period is such an important health indicator.
Okay, let's get into the most fundamental piece of the puzzle, how we even think about the cycle. It is high time we moved beyond all that folklore and just appreciated the incredible science that's at play here.
And this right here, this is the key. We are not talking about some sort of flaw or a weakness. The menstrual cycle is this intricate dance of hormones, this amazing feedback loop that basically shows off the body's intelligence. It's a sign that all your body's systems are communicating and working exactly like they should.
All right, let's tackle our first major myth, and oh boy, it is a big one. It's this idea that menstrual blood is somehow dirty, or toxic, or just waste that's leaving the body.
This comparison just nails the difference. The myth suggests the body is cleansing itself, but the reality? It's the complete opposite. Your body spends an entire month building this healthy, nutrient-dense home. It's called the endometrium, specifically to nourish a potential embryo. So, when pregnancy doesn't happen, the body isn't getting rid of waste, it's shedding this incredibly well-prepared lining.
And this chart breaks it down perfectly. What we call period blood isn't just blood at all. Actually, blood only makes up about a third of it. The majority is that uterine tissue we were just talking about, plus mucus and other secretions. It's a complex biological substance, not just bad blood.
So, what's the takeaway for you? Well, it means your period is literally a source of data. By paying attention to the color, the consistency, the volume of your flow, you can get real clues about your overall health, everything from your iron levels to your hormonal balance. It's like getting a personal health report every single month.
Let's move on to the next one. A myth so popular it pretty much feels like a fact. The idea that if you spend enough time around someone, your periods will sync up. But is there any science to back that up?
Right, so the story goes that these invisible chemical signals, pheromones, are what cause our bodies to align. But the scientific reality, which has been confirmed by huge studies, is that it's just math. Since everyone's cycle length is a little different, they're statistically bound to overlap sometimes, and then they'll just drift apart again.
You know, what's really fascinating here is the history behind this idea. It all started with a small study back in 1971 that proposed something called the McClintock Effect. And for decades, people just accepted it as fact. But then, fast forward to 2016, a massive, modern study with way more data comes along and finds absolutely no evidence of syncing at all.
And the scale of that 2016 study is so important. We're talking about over 1,500 people. That is a huge data set that just wasn't available back in the 70s. And that massive sample size is what gives its conclusion that syncing is a myth so much scientific weight. So, why do we still believe it so strongly? Well, it's all about psychology. Our brains are basically pattern-seeking machines. We love finding connections, right? Especially ones that make us feel closer to our friends. So we remember and get excited about that one time we synced up, and we just conveniently forget all the other months when we didn't. It's a classic case of confirmation bias.
Okay, next up, let's talk about moving your body. So many of us have been told to just take it easy, rest up, and definitely skip the gym during our period. But is that advice actually based on science, or is it based on some really outdated ideas about fragility? So, look, the bottom line is this. You should always listen to your body. But the idea that you absolutely have to rest is a myth. In fact, science shows that for a lot of people, the exact opposite is true. The right kind of exercise can be one of the best tools you have for managing period pain.
To understand why, you gotta meet the main culprit behind cramps. These things called prostaglandins. They're what cause the uterine muscles to contract and shed the lining. So, the higher your prostaglandin levels are, the more intense those contractions get and, well, the more pain you feel.
And this is how exercise basically launches a three-pronged attack on cramps. First, it boosts your blood flow, which can really help ease muscle tension. Second, it releases endorphins, our body's own natural painkillers. And third, and this is the big one, it can actually help lower the levels of those cramp-causing prostaglandins. It's a knockout punch.
All right, this next myth is something I think a lot of us have had to push back on personally. It's the dismissal of premenstrual syndrome, or PMS, as just being moody or, all in your head. But the reality is so much more concrete than that. PMS is not a personality flaw. It's not an emotional overreaction. It is a genuine, documented neurochemical event happening inside the brain, and it's triggered by the dramatic hormonal shifts that happen in the days right before your period. And check this out. This chart shows exactly how that chain reaction works. After ovulation, the hormone progesterone is flying high, but then it just plummets. And that sharp drop has a direct impact on your brain chemistry, specifically on serotonin. That's our key feel-good neurotransmitter. When progesterone tanks, serotonin goes right down with it. And if you need any more proof that this biological link is real, just look at PMDD, or premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It's a clinically recognized condition where the brain's response to that hormonal shift is so severe it can cause debilitating symptoms like severe depression or anxiety. This isn't imaginary, it's pure biology.
So, after busting all of these myths, where does that actually leave us? Well, it leaves us with a totally new, and honestly, a much more powerful way to think about the menstrual cycle, not as some kind of burden, but as an incredible source of information.
This, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. More and more medical professionals are starting to call the cycle the fifth vital sign, putting it right up there with your body temperature, your pulse, your breathing rate, and your blood pressure. A regular, healthy cycle is a sign of overall wellness, and an irregular one, it can be an early warning sign for other health issues. It really is a monthly report card from your body.
You see, when we strip away all the myths, we can finally start to listen to what our bodies are actually trying to tell us. And that powerful shift in understanding, that's what this is all about. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Which of these myths